Wake up your morning in a brand new way with the positive people, places, events, and things in and around your neighborhood and around the world. No matter where you live, your mornings are about to get better. It's the refreshing way to start your day. No doom or gloom, just bright sunshine no matter what the weather. Metro Magazine with Bonnie McDaniel. Inspiring, informative, intelligent, Ion. Positively the best way to start your morning. Good morning and welcome to Metro Magazine. We have something very special in store for you today. Actually, we're going to do an expanded version of a mother-daughter, very dynamic mother-daughter duo who's going to be talking about the exciting careers that they have both chosen, and interestingly enough, they're working together on various projects. So we're going to be talking, first of all, to the mother who, by the way, you don't look like her mom, but
oh, bless you for saying that.
Paula Potts, who has this very fascinating book called Yesterday When I Was Crazy. And as soon as I saw the title, I'm like, okay, I need to talk to her because I can totally relate. So Paula, welcome to Metro Magazine and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm delighted and excited to be
Okay,
here.
so let's go back. You're a Southern belle.
I am indeed.
So talk a little bit about your background. You grew up, I understand, in Charleston, South Carolina.
That's
You were
where
born
I was
there?
born. I was born
Okay.
in Charleston, South Carolina. And at the
Okay.
age of 6,
Okay.
my father moved our family to Denmark, South Carolina.
Okay.
And he became the president of Voorhees College.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So I grew up in a beautiful environment on a college campus.
Okay.
Yes.
Very, very blessed having been in the
Very-
South. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
it was-
great environment
It was a
to
wonderful
grow up in.
experience growing
Okay.
up on a college campus, though sheltered.
Yeah.
So it was kind of otherworldly actually in some
Mm-hmm.
ways, you know, because the real world is not a college campus, right?
Exactly.
The streets and neighborhoods, but my neighborhood was actually a college campus.
Okay. So you spent all of your formative years in South Carolina?
Yes.
In Voorhees, and then
Yes, I went to Voorhees Elementary School, Voorhees
Okay.
High School, and ultimately was graduated from Voorhees College.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
And what did you major in when you were in college?
I started out actually at Virginia State as a music major, a vocal
Okay.
music major, and then I went to Voorhees and I became an English major.
Okay.
Because my family is full of educators, so we can all read and write. So
Okay.
that was sort of my easy way out of college. And then I went on to the University of South Carolina to secure a degree in educational research.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I went into the field of education. I sort of went into the family business.
Okay.
My family have been in the education field for generations, for several generations. My great-grandfather was an educator and a minister
Okay.
and founded a school in North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Very, very.
Yes, my great-grandfather, who was born a slave, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the lineage has come down through the bloodlines, if you will.
Okay.
And so I took on that as my first career
Okay.
as an education professional in higher education.
Okay, I was about to ask you if
Yeah.
you did it on
Working
college
for
level.
primarily for HBCUs. I worked with my father for many years.
Wow.
Yeah, in Columbia, South Carolina. We lived there for 7 years, and I worked at Benedict College, and we formed a consortium
Okay.
of HBCUs and
Okay.
raised money for them through grantsmanship.
Okay.
And so that was my first official job out of college.
Wow. And I
Yeah.
mentioned earlier that we are going to be talking to your daughter in the next
Yes.
hour. And so it seems like you have a tradition of family working together. I mentioned in passing that I, at one time, had worked with my daughter and I had worked together, and
Right.
your daughter, and I mentioned the fact that right now it's not a good time. But then your daughter said, you know, you go through those phases because there's
Absolutely.
something to be said
Absolutely.
for the
Yes.
family dynamic. And I noticed that a lot of us, especially if you look back at our history, us being African Americans, that was something that we did because we had to
Absolutely.
in order to survive.
In order to survive, we
and-
had to stay closely knit
Exactly.
and make it happen together as a unit.
Exactly.
Yes,
And when I think about and look at the way things are today, a lot of our kids are kind of running off doing their own thing, not realizing that
Right.
when you bring minds together
Yeah.
some amazing things happen.
Exactly.
But
right.
everybody has to, I guess, find their own path.
Yeah,
but.
and we actually did, things independently as well. And I think that's part of the growth process. You go out into the world and you find your individual self, and then you decide with whom you want to engage, your journey, your mission, your purpose.
Exactly.
And Silver and I sort of went through that in stages. I was a dance teacher also when I was at
And you mentioned
Voorhees.
that you taught her dance.
And she was one of my first dance pupils at 2.5, mind you.
Wow.
Now, having no idea she would become a dancer, right? I was babysitting. That was my creative way of babysitting her, right? So I'll take her to the class and I don't have to get a babysitter. And she was teaching and analyzing dance steps at 2.5.
Wow.
So I really kind of knew then she had some really special creative gifts.
And I can't wait to talk to her in the next hour about some
exactly.
of the special things she's doing. But right now I want to focus on you. So you said you were an educator in earlier years, and then let's come forward and talk about, because you have a tremendous background, but talk about that moment when things just kind of went off in a different direction. And then that's going to bring us to the book. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, the setting was the U.S. Department of Education, where I was also employed as a program specialist, working for HBCUs and other developing colleges.
Had you come to the D.C. area
I had
by
moved
then?
to D.C.
Okay.
Well, we'd moved to D.C. I was brought to D.C. again for another historically black organization, the our Moten Memorial Foundation. They brought me here as a research associate. And when I left there, I entered the federal government service as a program specialist in 1981. And in 1988, one day I went to work, and the air conditioning in my office was blowing profusely down over my head and shoulder. And I began to develop this pain pattern in my neck and in my shoulder. And I didn't know what it was, of course. And by the time I walked out of my office to go home that day, I was almost bending down to carry my briefcase.
Wow.
Because of the pain?
I
got home, because of the pain just started expanding. And by the time I got home, I could barely carry it at all. And so for about the next 6 months, I went in and out of intermittent pain.
Well, what is that pain? What did that pain feel like? Was it a
sharp
burning
pain,
or a sharp,
sharp burning,
like a
intense
stabbing?
pain,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets all of your attention.
Okay.
Okay. And it doesn't really allow you to do much else, but either focus on the pain, focus how to get rid of the pain. Okay. So of course I go to the doctor, and for 6 to 8 months, I had every diagnosis: bursitis, rheumatoid arthritis, and no one really knew what was happening to me because it would come and go at first, right? And then after this period of stressful evaluations, and even the people in my office, my doctors would send a notice saying cold air makes it worse, and I needed a heater. I couldn't get a heater. Nobody believed what I was saying, about this pain that came and went, because it didn't have an identity in 1988.
Right,
Okay?
right.
And I went to a very fine specialist. I had many medical heroes, so thank God for that. And I found through my number one medical hero, R. George Adams at Howard University Hospital, I was referred to Michael Reynolds, rheumatologist, and he was familiar with a condition called myofascial trigger point disorder. I had a diagnosis.
Okay.
I was free, right?
Okay.
Because it really is challenging to not know and to have people disbelieve you and not know and say you don't look sick, so what are you complaining about, right? So he gave it a name, but that name didn't hold, okay? Because by the time I filed a case for a disability,
it was that bad.
Yeah, it was that bad. It got progressively worse, primarily because there was no real treatment. And I continued to be stressed, constantly under pervasive stress because of the disbelief, the unbelief, because there was no medication that got rid of the pain. I soon started having panic attacks, and it was a vicious cycle. The panic attacks would make the pain worse. The pain made the panic attacks worse. It was a vicious cycle. Because ultimately we would discover that this fibromyalgia and this panic disorder were all resonating in the central nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. So they really were two disorders fighting each other in the same systems. We didn't know that in 1988, though. No one did.
Because when I think about it, it's only been in recent years, and I think the first time I paid attention was a very good friend of mine had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and she, like yourself, was in constant pain, and she had to leave her profession, and that's when I began to pay attention. But I had never heard of that before.
No, and no one else had. And as a matter of fact, it was not an accepted medical condition originally in 1988, 89.
In terms of filing for an insurance claim
or anything, even being recognized as a person with a disorder or a
So
disease.
did they think it was all psychological?
They thought it was all in my head, vis-a-vis crazy. She's just crazy. You know, Paula.
Yesterday
she was crazy, right? Don't tell nobody, but that girl is crazy.
Oh my gosh! So you were imagining
So that's
all
where the
this
label
stuff.
of crazy, and of course panic attacks.
Right.
And I had, not only did I end up having severe fibromyalgia, because I got worse for 7 years. I spent 7 years getting worse.
Pain,
So what started in my neck and shoulder was my whole body. Hands, arms, legs, face.
So what was it like? I mean,
everywhere.
could you go to sleep or?
No, I had insomnia, and then I was bedridden. I ultimately ended up being bedridden and unable to walk because the pain in my lower back was so severe that I couldn't ambulate. Without pain, that would just stop me in my tracks. And the medications are insufficient. And they just kept giving me more and more medications.
What kind of, were they giving you painkillers?
Painkillers.
Muscle relaxers?
None of the
and
muscle
things like
relaxers worked for me. Anti-inflammatories made me sick on the stomach, so I couldn't take those. So I had to take medicine to take the medicine. And then I took antidepressants. I became severely depressed, dysthymic, dissociative. You know, it was just one thing after one thing after another as I fell into what I describe in the book as brokenness. And then I eventually was removed from my job in some rather unpleasant circumstances. And my marriage ended.
Wow.
And my career ended.
Wow. And we're going to take a quick break if you don't mind. And if you haven't figured out yet, we're actually talking about Paula's healing, and that's why she's here today. I didn't want to give it away, but her story is so fascinating, and I thought you would like to hear it. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Metro Magazine.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
If you're just joining us, we're actually doing an expanded version of Metro Magazine this morning. We're talking to a dynamic mother and daughter duo, and the first person we're speaking to is actually the mom, who I'm still looking at her thinking, okay, you adopted this daughter, didn't you? Paula Potts, who's the author of Yesterday When I Was Crazy, and she was just beginning to tell us her story of healing. So Paula, why don't we continue?
Yes, and you know, backtracking just a moment, I say that I pioneered my disease, that I brought it in. I was one of the folk who brought it in. So it then became my responsibility, if you will, to figure out a way to do something about it, to heal it. And in my journey, that became my journey. You know, I went through the medical system, as I said, for about 7 years, and getting worse all the time, had all kinds of injections and meds. And then one day, my doctor said to me, you know, one time before, you healed yourself by dancing.
Oh, wow.
And I said, yes, you're right. I remember. And I'd had one little minor injury. I'd gotten overweight, believe it or not. And I went to a dance class to overcome that, and I did. And he said, well, why don't you try that again? And I did. Long story short, I found through my dance teacher that I had seen before, who had passed away, at her funeral. Her daughter was there, and she said, you need to try synergy dance.
Okay.
Synergy
and what
dance.
is that?
Synergy dance is a form of dance that's for healing purposes. It incorporates yoga, it incorporates ancient movements, Eastern dance, Tai Chi, and polarity therapy.
Okay.
Okay.
Which is?
Which is an energy medicine modality. It's a hands-on, holistic energy medicine healing system that deals with the energy systems of the body.
Okay.
So in this dance class is where I would get my first polarity therapy exposure, because it was incorporated in the dance. You would contact yourself certain ways on the body, which you would be doing energy work on yourself while you danced.
Wow.
Okay. And the same founder of Synergy Dance, her name is Charmaine Lee. She was also my first practitioner.
Wow.
And she took me to her treatment table, and did polarity therapy on me, and was one of the first people to tell me just how severe my condition was and how I really needed to devote my full attention to healing myself.
You know, so you just reminded me of something, and people, you guys are going to think this is crazy, but it actually happened. I remember when my mother-in-law, in her final days, she had breast cancer.
Oh my.
And the cancer had metastasized, and it had gone to her brain, and her head was in just extreme pain.
Right.
And I was doing something to her one day, I don't remember, and my hands touched her face, and she said, there were different times she said, Bonnie, can you come and just take your hands and place them on my forehead? And she says, your hands are heat. It makes the pain seem to go away.
Yes.
And I just thought that was so curious. And I thought to myself that, you know, maybe she was imagining.
Not at all.
But she would tell me to place my hands on her forehead. And she would sit there and she would close her eyes. She would, oh, that feels so good. You just reminded me of that because it actually happened. And I never made the connection until now that there really is power in someone's touch.
Yes.
Wow.
Touch. Right.
Oh my gosh, I'm getting chills.
I am too. I'm sitting over here going, she's speaking my language. Thank you,
This is
universe.
so
Thank you, God.
crazy.
That's exactly right. Your mother was spot on.
Yeah,
and what's
it's
so
my
beautiful
mother-in-law,
about your testimony is that we already know this.
Wow.
Our innate wisdom already knows the power of touch. Think about mothers cradling their babies.
Exactly.
The power of touch.
Exactly.
Think about patting someone on their shoulder.
And what that makes them
and on their
feel
back
like.
and what that makes them feel like. And that's the essence of energy medicine.
Or even holding a person.
Holding a person. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about touch. And the
Oh, wow.
hands have the most amount of energy centers that connect to the brain and inform us of what's going on to the body. There's even a name, it's called proprioception, is the condition in the medical term, if you will, the scientific term for the human capacity to sense what's going on in your own body and somebody else's body, and to impact what you sense, that sensory perception, and to restore it to what we call a state of balance and harmony.
Wow.
And that's what energy medicine purports to do. And it's amazing work. It changed my life. It saved my life. And it's my new ministry. You know, my purpose has really become to spread the good news about energy medicine. And it's a gentle healing process. You know, now you do have to commit time to it. You know, so that's part of the challenge of it in the world of quick fix. You know, it's not a one-time magic wand kind of thing.
Sure.
But it is magical.
That is so interesting.
And it's very powerful.
Now you're going to have me thinking now because
so mother was right, my dear.
My mother-in-law, when she did that, I was like,
right.
yeah, she was like, I was like, she's imagining.
She had the innate wisdom. We all have it.
That is too funny.
Yeah,
now you're going to make me, y'all, if you come to me and you're acting, I'm going to lay hands on you.
That's right. Exactly.
Of course, no, I'm not going to do that. But it really has brought home something that happened in my life. Yeah.
It's real. You know, it's one of the things that my editor and I were talking about when I was doing the final copy of the book, and I had written this term I just shared with you, proprioception. She said, I don't know about that, Paula. She said, people may not want to, you know, read that word and, you know.
So break it down to make it simple.
You got to break it down.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, but I have to tell it.
Yes.
Because people need to know that it's real. Part of the challenge is people think it's all woo-woo. It's all, you know, some esoteric nonsense, if you will, because you can't see it. But the invisible realm is the realm of energy medicine.
But, you know, if you think about the fact, because I'm a Christian, if you think about the fact that when you think about Christ and a lot of the healing that he did, and the fact that when he got ready to leave, he says, I'm going to basically hand this over to you and you're to use it in your dealings with people as you minister.
Yes.
It makes perfect sense because there are people who would just come and touch him.
Yes.
And their bodies would be healed. So it makes perfect sense that we are not tapping into things, as you said before, that are innately ours.
That are innately ours.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because we look for everything outside of us.
Yes.
And in our traditional Christian theology, you know, God was out there. God wasn't in here.
Right.
And it was blasphemous to say that God was in here.
Right.
And fortunately now,
People
there are
know
more
that.
people who are accepting that divinity is within.
Yes.
And it's that divinity that allows us to heal ourselves and others.
Wow.
In a very effortless way, really.
So continue and talk about your healing, because I want to make sure we get to your
exactly.
book.
Yes. Well, I took the dance class, and I stayed there for a while, and I was really, really rehabilitated by that. When I first went, I could only do a few moves, sit on the floor, watch everybody else. But as time went on, I was
What kind of
rehabilitated.
dance?
Synergy dance.
Synergy, okay.
It's a movement.
Okay.
And it had a lot of modern dance. It was a plethora of genres of dance that were blended by this very talented woman, Charmaine Lee, who did an outstanding job. It was her baby.
Wow.
She created it to heal herself, which is another story. In any case, she said to me directly that you need to study this work. You need to study this work, whatever it takes, and I have the teacher for you. So I was guided, let me also say. I think my higher self kicked in early in the game, even when I didn't know what was happening and I was in a medication-induced stupor. My higher self was still functioning. I think that's important to know, that the higher self is just that, it's higher.
No,
That
I know.
Right, and so it can lead you even when you're at your worst. And so I said, okay, we'll do. And then that teacher came into town shortly thereafter, and I took my first class sitting on the floor, back against the wall, propped up on pillows, right out of the hospital. I went from the hospital emergency room to the classroom, polarity therapy classroom. And during my first training, I really didn't understand a whole lot. At the same time, another discipline that I want to mention here, there was a young woman there who was also a synergy teacher and dancer. Her name is Michelle Maycumber, and she had a particular discipline called myotherapy. Okay? myotherapy. Well, not many people have heard of myotherapy. And myotherapy was specific to the trigger points in the muscles and to retraining the body, in particular muscles, to go back to their natural state. If they're out of balance, if they're out of line, and to alleviate painful trigger points in the body. So I was able to work with her. I found her there at Synergy Dance also. This is how wonderful serendipity and all these things work to the glory of God, right? And so I actually spent 10 years in full-time therapy.
Oh my goodness.
10 years. 2 to 4 times a week, Michelle would come to my home, because since I was studying polarity therapy, I needed to have my own treatment room. In order to study, you had to practice, right? And I was curious to learn about this therapy that I was now embracing. You know, I would understand it better, which meant it would probably be more impactful. And indeed it was. So I spent 10 years with her. And during those 10 years, I studied polarity therapy, and then I studied craniosacral therapy, which is another form of energy medicine. Okay, I studied that for 3 years. And being in all those classes for those 3 or 4 years was my healing path. Because I would be in class for 5 days, and I would have sessions like twice a day. And by the end of those 3 years, my pain began to remiss.
Wow.
Yeah, my pain began to go into a remission. I became completely more functional. I had to retrain every muscle in my body. I had to stretch, do stretching, passive stretch it's called, exercises every 2 to 4 hours. So I spent this 10 years.
You were a determined woman. I love that.
That's the right word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a right word for it. You're seeing right into me. I love the words you come up with, because I write about being determination. Somehow, and people ask me, well, what was the main thing that worked? And I say, plain old determination.
And you know, and a lot of people underestimate that, whether it be with physical illness, mental illness, or situations that you might be going through. Determination is key. It really is. It is key. Solid gold.
Exactly, because it's a solid gold, right? Yeah. It's indeed golden, because it's the thing that takes you from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, because in between, you know, you got A and a half, you know, where you have a setback, but you're still trying to get to B, you know, and so your determination will get you to B, you know, because that was the other thing that's miraculous to me about my story, is that I had a myriad of setbacks, constant setbacks. And I would ask my practitioners, my mental health practitioners, my doctors, my therapists, you know, when is this going to be over? You know, when am I going to get up and feel better and I'm going to stay that way? And of course,
10 years is a long
10
time.
years, full time.
Wow.
That was what I did
Wow.
all day, every day.
And when I go back to what you mentioned earlier in the interview, the fact that you lost your career,
Yes.
you lost your marriage.
Yes.
I mean, you were down.
I was down, completely down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I write
and-
about what I call the fall.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go through that. And I think
Yeah.
one of the things that I'm just rejoicing about this morning is the
Yeah.
fact that I'm sitting here talking to a woman who didn't just get up, but now you're walking and helping other people to learn how to
Exactly.
stand again.
Exactly.
And I love that. I love that. And we're going to take another quick break
Okay.
and come right back with more Metro Magazine.
Okay.
Up to 40% of businesses never recover after experiencing a major disaster. Make a plan at ready.gov/business.
When you throw away money on wasted electricity, you're throwing away everything you could have bought with it. Saving energy saves you money.
Oh, sweetheart. Gonna give you a hand?
No thanks, Dad. I got it.
Okay. I'm gonna go fix the lamp in your room.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of children in foster care who will take you just as you are.
Paula, when we went to break, we were just talking about, I continued the conversation about your healing, and you were
Yes.
talking about the process and all of that. And the fact that it took 10 years, which I'm still trying to grasp.
Yes.
But I also remember that there was something that happened in my own personal life, and it happened in 2004, was the beginning of the cycle, and 2014 was when I had that breakthrough. So 10 years is not
Not as long as you think.
right. It seems
Yeah.
a long time when you get on the other side of it,
Yes.
but when you're in the middle of it,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's
And
one step after the other.
Exactly. And you
Yeah.
just sort of have to, in healing in general, you know, you need to trust the process.
Yes, you
because it is a
do.
process. It's
It
not
really
an
is.
event.
And if you miss any of the steps, is what I've learned,
Exactly.
you miss the blessing on the other side. You have
Absolutely.
to embrace, especially
Absolutely.
the painful moments.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Pain is a great
scre-
teacher.
Yeah, you scream at the top of your lungs and you ask God, why am I
Right.
here? This doesn't make any
Exactly.
sense. But okay, and my thing is, I'm always asking when I'm in an uncomfortable situation, okay, what do I need to get from this? Because I don't want to be here anymore.
Perfect. Perfect. That's
Yeah.
the right question.
Oh, wow.
That's the perfect question.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we're missing in the culture.
Yeah.
Is we want to identify everything as bad, you know, and good.
Yeah.
And most things that we describe as bad are not bad. Really, they are contextual. You know, and they are leading us somewhere if we are willing to learn lessons. But ego wants to know everything rather than spirit, which wants to open us up to a grander design of ourselves.
Right.
You know, there's more to you there.
Wow.
And if you explore this challenge, you will find that.
I have a tag that I'm on social media a lot, and my tag is, and everybody knows me by this, it's how good is that?
Okay.
And it actually goes to scripture, Romans 8:28, that says all things work together, the good,
That's
the
right.
bad, the ugly, everything
Absolutely. To
for
those
good.
who- yes.
You know, for those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. And a lot of people don't know that about me.
Oh, okay.
That the fact that it's referring to scripture, but it's actually a reminder to me that no matter what day of the week it is or what my mindset is at the moment, that whatever it is working for my good. It's actually me talking to myself and trying to also get other people to hear that really is the answer.
And that's why you're in that chair. Because it's exactly where you need to be, spreading this word to the world so they can learn.
So you
No,
hear how good is
absolutely.
that?
No, really. You know,
Yeah.
we need to learn to live in the moment, as I say, live in the moment with God, and
Yeah.
live in the moment with all the challenges. Because if I hadn't been severely disabled, unable to walk, all of those things, the thing that bothered me was I couldn't dance. I
Yeah.
said, oh no, not me. I'm a dancer. That's not going to happen.
And it's
You know?
interesting when I'm sure the years before you dance was probably like something you just kind of like, this is what I do.
I stayed in a dance class.
And once it was taken from you.
Oh, I was devastated.
Yeah.
I was completely devastated.
Yeah.
That's how I was always in a dance class. That's how I exercised. Because in addition to therapy for the 10 years, you know, I exercised, I went to the synergy dance classes, I juiced, I changed my diet, I changed my thought programming. You know, I did a lot of things
So it wasn't just the
complement the physical.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was a holistic paradigm.
Okay.
You know, and so that was necessary. So I want to get that in. But then what happened, you know, after the 10th or 12th year, and actually my therapist was expecting a baby and wasn't available that much anymore. And I was now working with a different kind of therapist, with a craniosacral therapist. But after one day I looked up and I went, you know, but it's not about this. It's not about this full-time therapy, girl. That's not the answer. There's something else beyond this full-time therapy.
Wow.
And what I realized is now that I had been rehabilitated in the physical and spiritual and emotional, that I was back to needing a purpose again.
Wow.
I was back
So
to
the pain
needing,
was gone by now.
the pain was, let's say,
Or
diminished.
manageable?
Yeah. You know, I got off all the medications. I detoxed all my meds
That is-
by myself.
Yeah, that's
Right.
awesome.
With foods and juices and supplements and vitamins and
So
exercise.
what kind of foods do you eat now?
I eat live food, girl. See? Oh, live food. That's
Y'all see
my
why I'm out
sermon.
there, you see why I'm out there digging in that dirt, y'all? Yeah.
Stay
I have
in
a
the dirt.
garden.
You know, the earth is healing.
Exactly.
Just in and of itself.
Yeah.
There's a healing discipline called grounding.
Okay.
Which is just standing in the earth in your bare feet and holding the intention to draw the energy up into your body from the earth.
Wow.
It's that simple.
If you come
There's
to
no
my house
deeper
in
than
about
that.
another month, every morning, bright and early, Bonnie's out there in that garden working
Wonderful
because I
place to
love
be.
to go out. There's nothing better than going out because
Nothing.
I have a home studio into my garden and grabbing my veggies to make that salad in the middle of the day. There is nothing
I want
better
to get
than
there
that.
one day. I just have an herb garden on my back porch,
Yeah.
but nothing that
No,
deep.
I have all kinds of veggies and I
Wow.
eat from the earth the things that I grow.
Can't go
because-
wrong with that.
No, you can't. But you were talking about the live food. So
Yeah,
you don't
so-
eat any meats?
No, actually, I do eat meat. I work with a
Okay.
very powerful nutritionist who
Okay.
said, no, I wasn't destined to be a vegetarian or vegan. So I was like, yeah.
She wants a
you
dead
know,
animal
but-
on her plate.
But, and she is very
Okay.
powerful, intuitive, you know,
Yeah.
Kimberly Miles is her name. She's now
Okay.
in Sedona. Kudos to Kimberly. She taught me a lot.
Okay.
But she put me on the live food, the vegetables, encouraged me to keep juicing. I was already juicing. And to get my grains in, and more about balance and frequency. You know, not to eat after a certain hour at night. Now, my medical doctor had already taken me off of sugar and salt and caffeine.
Those
Over
are
30
three
years
not
ago.
good things at all.
I had had a history of digestive issues, which also contributed somewhat to the fibromyalgia coming into my body. But I overcame all of that. I don't have that anymore,
Wow.
the digestive disorders, because the change in diet, no dairy. I had to come off dairy. I was lactose intolerant, you know. But again, you know, eating the right things, the right time, lots of salads, greens, you know. And I eat mostly poultry. I'm a
Okay.
chicken girl, you know. So I eat chicken.
Hopefully the organic kind.
And organic, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I switched to organic food, period. No processed food, because I actually experienced physiologically the difference between processed foods and
yeah.
live foods.
Yeah.
I had that experience. When I was eating things that might be in the can or the box or whatever, before I finished my diet changes, when I noticed that when I took those foods out of my diet, the pain was also lessened by that.
Wow.
The toxicity that I could feel began to lessen because I was taking those chemicals.
Wow.
Yeah, and you couldn't give me any generic meds either. I wanted the real thing because the generics had other components that did not agree. And when you're taking 10 meds, imagine.
You know,
You
you
know.
were mentioning the fact that you have an herb garden. And one of the things that when I was growing up, because I grew up in the South too, and my grandmother was from Georgia. And I can't I was a little girl, but I can't say that I remember her taking medications. When something was wrong,
Yes.
she would go back out in that yard
Yes.
and start
Absolutely.
clipping stuff and brewing stuff to make mostly a tincture or a tea.
A tea, yes.
And I know that I do that whenever I have any kinds
Wow.
of issues. I use my herbs, and it absolutely works.
It
Yeah,
does
I
work,
don't like medicines. I will say that I'm one of those people who's affected by the barometric pressure,
Okay, yes, I used to be.
and I want to talk to you about that because I'm going to figure out why or how to get rid of it. But I do occasionally have to take not an aspirin, but
Yeah.
Excedrin,
Right,
and it'll take
exactly.
the headache away. But
Well, my take on medication is that it is useful, primarily though in acute situations. That's
Right.
what I say about medicine. And I have a certain medication that I take if I know that I'm going to be under great pressure and anxiety to my physical body and might flare up the fibromyalgia, which I still do have actually. And I take it with me, in case I need it, but I don't take anything regularly. And
but
so
you know what? Valerian root.
Oh, I used to go to sleep with that girl.
When I can't sleep at night because my brain won't shut down, I go and get me some valerian root, either tea or a
Unbelievable.
tab, and it's all natural.
Yes.
And it is the best thing going. It's
Yes.
like, okay, because sometimes chamomile, which is my first go-to, chamomile
Okay.
tea it's not strong
Yeah,
enough.
chamomile didn't work for me.
Yeah, but the
valerian
valerian root,
did.
it's so,
Yes.
it calms you, evens you
Yeah.
right out.
It put me right to sleep.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
saved my life.
Yeah,
Valerian is
it's-
another one of those herbs that really made a huge difference for me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
for
and
anxiety and,
lavender
things like that.
oil
Lavender is also
I
another
put that
good
on my
one.
pillow, and that would help me to sleep.
One of my
at night.
clients, who is a wellologist,
Oh, wow, I never
and
heard that term.
she, as a matter of fact, she fought her way back from cancer, thyroid cancer, and she has these little butters and things that she does, and she gave me this lavender shea butter.
Oh, nice.
That's
Yes.
really,
Yes.
and I every now and then I'll use it, and just the smell
Yes.
is
Yeah.
very, very calming. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. But you know what? I want to make sure we get to this book because
know,
I know
right?
yesterday when I was crazy, I'm thinking there must be some funny stuff in here. So tell me what led you to write this book? And oh my gosh, it's a very, very nice looking book.
Thank
and I
you.
can't wait to read it.
Thank you.
So talk to me about the book.
Well, a number of things actually led me to write this book.
Okay.
My medical doctor, whom I spoke of a while back, Dr. R. George Adams, said to me during the journey, he too began to notice me getting better and better, and not for medical reasons. And he said, well, when are you going to write the book?
Wow. Yeah.
Just
you
kind
gotta
of matter
share
of fact,
this.
right?
Yeah.
And part of his treatment protocol for me was to keep a daily journal.
Okay.
So I kept this daily journal for all these years. Every day I wrote down everything. And he would just say every now and then, okay, have you started writing the book? And he was relentless, with me about writing the book. And so after a while, the book started manifesting. I would write chapters, not knowing I was writing the book. And then in 2005, right in the middle of Katrina,
Oh, wow.
and in the middle of an intense panic attack, this is an amazing story even to me, on August 29th, 2005, I woke up in the middle of the morning and all of this poetry started coming into my being. I had never written a poem in my life. I was 57.
Wow.
I'd never written a poem. And by the end of the morning, I had written 8 poems. And I was like, okay, God, what is this about, right? And so it really started out as poetry.
Okay.
Because I think the Lord knew how intimidated I was about this whole book project, if you will allow that. And that I needed a sign, if you will. I needed the message to come in. And so I wrote a poem in November of 2005 called Yesterday When I Was Crazy.
Okay, so how long is the poem, and can you read it
Well,
right
it's
now?
a long poem.
It's a long. Can
Yeah,
you
it's
read
in the
a
back.
couple of
Okay.
excerpts from that poem?
I think
because
it's in the last entry in the book. And so I wrote the poem. And in that moment, I knew that was the title of the book.
wow.
I said, oh, wow, you want me to write about being crazy?
How many pages can I write?
So I was a little taken aback by that
Yeah.
one. Yesterday when I was crazy, and my mind was full of mazes. Living in doubt about my safety, I just danced within, without, like a soul with no earthly clout. Frenzied thoughts raced through each moment, confusion cursing every torment. Do I live or do I die? Do I laugh out loud or do I only cry? What took away my sacred bond with creation's golden orb? Why do I split from core and hold and spin a web of fragments old? What sight betrays my spirit's flight into the dark soul of the night? And yet, what wonders store in all the places where the victim runs the races with voices yelling obscenities at my light? Please, yesterday, please go away without a fight and let me be to return to me. What does that mean? Not exactly sure. Perhaps just like I was before. Before what, you ask? And so did I. Before the bomb inside my head, telling me I'd soon be dead, was taking o'er my heart's desire for peace and love and stable fire. Before yesterday became today, and tomorrow was just a thought away.
Wow.
Thank you for letting me read
Oh my
that.
gosh, how powerful.
That's what started this whole journey of
Yeah.
Yesterday When I Was Crazy, the poem.
Okay.
And as I said, I knew that it was the book title. And actually, for a moment, I was a little angry.
Why?
Because of the shame of my disease was still a part of my emotional makeup. You know, how do I talk about?
You bring up something interesting
Yeah.
because we're talking about physical healing, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware of the fact that what I'm sensing is that you are talking to people about life in general.
You've got it once again.
Yeah, that
Exactly.
because there are
Yes.
people who have gone through things in their lives.
Exactly.
And the very first thing that happens when you're trying to come out of it is the shame.
Yes, exactly.
Because I mentioned that 2004 I entered a
Yes.
space, and then
Absolutely.
by 2014 I knew I was coming. And you know when you're exiting.
Oh, yes, you do.
And it was
Exactly.
2014 that I began to
Exactly.
really see
Yeah.
my exit.
Yeah.
But I remembered early on when I was in the middle of all of the crazy,
Yeah.
I was so ashamed
Yeah.
because I was thinking, I'm too smart for this. How
Yes.
didn't I know better than this?
Yes.
Why am I in this place? I mean, the why?
The whys come from everywhere.
And it's interesting that you talk about the fact that this poem came to you, because I remembered the way I got on the other side of that shame was to write. And I actually talked about, and it was, and this brings me almost to tears, because we were at, my daughter and I were at Martha's Vineyard.
Oh.
And I'm sitting in a place, and I'm sitting upon this rock, and we're watching these, we're supposed to be watching the sunset. And I didn't realize that I kind of wandered off to myself, and I'm sitting up on this big rock, and I have my knees like this and my hands like this, and I'm watching this ship or this sailboat go in front of me, and the sun is coming down at the very moment, and my daughter captured that image. And when I saw it, I broke into tears, because I knew that that was a moment in my life when things were very clear to me. And I wrote about that moment, about the fact that, that was something that happened to me. It's not who I am.
Absolutely.
And so
Absolutely.
talk about the
Yes.
importance of and how you get on the other side.
Yes,
For me, it was
exactly.
writing and me saying out loud, you know what? This is where I was.
Right. Well, I think it's when I took on the mission. I remember sitting in one of my energy medicine classes while I was still coming into my own and thinking, I have to take this message somewhere.
Yeah.
This is not just about me, what I'm going through. This is about others. This is about what I call God's people, or people, right? And so that was one epiphany, when I realized that all that I had been through was really not about me.
It's never about us.
Yeah, and that's what we all should learn. It's about what we're called to give.
That's right.
Because I also write about something I call gifts with responsibilities. And I believe we're all born with gifts. We all acquire different kinds of gifts and ability, gifts of the spirit, like intuition, and gifts like dancing and writing and being a public speaker and a gardener. They're all gifts. And we're responsible to use these gifts to heal ourselves and to heal the world.
Others, exactly.
So my whole life shifted from being about education to being about healing and getting the message out that there are all kinds of ways to heal yourself, if you will, but believe it. You know, because most people just don't believe. You know, we're so caught up in the traditional, conventional medical system that we don't think there's anything else. And then alternative medicine came in and got a bad name, you know, kind of, sort of. And so, matter of fact, I don't really use that language. I like the new integrative.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the integrative. I like the complementary, because it's not always alternative. I believe both schools of medicine can work together.
And a lot of physicians are beginning to
and they're coming
recognize
around,
that.
exactly, and are recognized. And even my physicians who were not trained in energy medicine, indeed supported me a great deal. You know, when it was time for me to do the myotherapy, which no one knew about, I was able to get my doctor to write the kind of recommendation for that so I could get approval for that treatment. You know, and so my doctor stayed with me through this whole energy medicine journey, even though they didn't know what it was about. So I had the recognition first that it wasn't just about me, and secondly that my new purpose now was to get the good news out about
And you know, I
energy
want to
medicine.
stop you there for a second, because one of the things with me being involved in the work that I'm involved in, and because I got a lot of people who, you know, can I come on the show and talk
Of
about this? I
course.
have this purpose. One of the things that is very important, I think, and I don't know if you agree with me, is that purpose is the go-to word these days.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
a
this
little
is my
overused.
purpose and my passion.
Yeah.
But what I find is that a lot of people adopt other people's purposes, other people's passions.
Yes.
Talk about
Yes.
why that is not a good thing to do.
Yes, I love talking to you. Yes, because, well, not only is it not a good thing to do, but again, it's the process that takes us
Right,
there.
right.
Because people look for purpose outside of their own experience.
Right. Say that again.
People look for purpose outside of their own experiences.
Exactly.
And that's not where they are.
Yeah.
You know,
You cannot.
You can't
I
find,
tell-
it's not out there.
I tell young
Yeah.
women, because I mentor a lot of young adults, and I tell them all the time, I'm like, honey, I paid a price to sit in this seat.
Hey, right.
And I
Me
said,
too.
take your time.
Absolutely.
You will get there. When you get there, it will be so sweet.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Don't rush it.
Right, because you know, if it's not natural, if it doesn't wake you up in the morning, and even if it challenges you, that's part of it too.
Right.
But it does have to come within, and it's a form of intrinsic motivation rather than an extrinsic kind of experience.
To have an
Also.
interest in something is very different from really
Absolutely.
being a gift. for
Oh
you.
my goodness.
Yeah.
You know, because for me, I didn't use the word purpose myself until recently, and I actually wrote a poem about that as well. But for me, it was a calling. It was a direct calling message from my higher self saying, this is what you're going to do now.
Right.
Because I never would have been putting my hands on people's feet. Come on now. You know, I was behind a
My
desk.
husband, he's like, feet are not to be touched.
I was right behind a desk typing and being the intellectual, dream girl, right? So the idea that I would be putting my hands on people's bodies and, and do it, just that alone, was very foreign to me until I began to understand the power of the energy medicine work and what it did for me, what I had seen it do for others. And then I just kept getting shown that, and I just kept getting so many blessings as a result of that. And so eventually, after writing the several poems, 20 or so poems, I then started to write the prose, back to writing the book, and stories started coming in. And so actually, I spent 9 years writing this book.
You know what? I'm sitting here laughing, and you probably think, what's funny? I think about, I'm going back to the beginning of this interview. We were talking about your educational background. You studied music.
Yeah.
You were interested in music for a while, and then you decided you
Exactly.
were going to go to the family
business,
and
right?
you became an educator, and you majored in English. How good is that?
How about that? Exactly. And research.
Exactly, because you need all of those skills.
You need all of those
Nothing
skills.
is ever lost
Nothing's ever lost.
when you're walking in a space that's
Right.
designed for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also in connection with that, when I talk about gifts with responsibilities, my gifts as an artist, a singer, a dancer, an actress, also became part of my healing tools. Every part of my life, my whole life now is about healing.
Yeah.
Everything
yeah.
I do, from playing the piano and singing for myself and singing in church to doing business with my daughter, creating jewelry, creativity heals.
It sure does.
Okay, right?
It sure does. I know that for a fact.
Right.
Yeah.
Creativity heals.
Yeah.
So I also came to the awareness in my own life, since I could never work again in any legitimate way that the world recognized, right? So I decided that my life would be filled with work therapy, okay? And that every part of my life would have to have therapeutic value. And that's how I made decisions. If I was going to do something that didn't have therapeutic value, then it wasn't happening in Paula's life.
Yeah, if I don't have fun with it, I'm not doing it.
And it had to it had to enhance me spiritually, physically, emotionally in some way, keep me closer to God and to the grace. I feel like I had a lot of grace moments, you know, where I had a knowing self that carried me from point A to point B. I always knew, for example, what therapies and therapists not to choose.
Wow.
And I always knew which ones to choose.
You talk about grace. I have to share something else with you. There's a connection here, and I'm not sure
Yeah,
what
I'm
it is.
feeling it. I'm feeling you.
My signature. Did you get you got an email from me? Did you notice my signature? Your daughter. I'm sorry, I'm talking off camera. My signature is de gracia.
Oh, we didn't know that was your signature. Oh.
That's my signature, and it basically means, by the grace of God, I am who I am.
Okay, I'm gonna keep my mouth. I'm not gonna sit here with my mouth open, but that's what I would be doing if I weren't on camera. Oh my gosh, that is
Yeah,
remarkable.
yeah.
We are kindred spirits in so many
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
Because I write a lot about grace.
Grace
book.
is, and
It's the ultimate.
You can't define
Yeah.
your life. Grace defines your
Grace
life.
defines your life. I
And
like that.
you live your life
Absolutely.
based upon the grace that is given you.
Exactly.
Which
Exactly.
means, and when you understand that concept,
Yes.
you become comfortable living your own life. People ask me all the time, where do you get that confidence? How do you know? And how?
Right.
I'm like, because of God's grace.
Absolutely.
I live
I couldn't agree more.
grace every single day. And when you get that, there isn't anything that you can't accomplish.
That's right.
Nothing.
Absolutely true.
And if I could get that message out to anybody watching this morning, if you can grasp that concept and live by that, whatever comes to you can be.
Yes. Grace is freeing.
It sure is.
It frees you.
It sure does.
The other thing that we talk about a lot in energy medicine that grace has the quality of, and that's effortlessness. Grace is effortless.
It sure is.
It's given in a way that just washes over you like a gentle breeze, you know, when you receive it and you know, and you have that clarity.
You
that
sure
says,
do.
this is what's next.
Exactly.
Thank you, God.
Exactly.
You know? Exactly.
I really like you.
I know.
You understand? You get me.
I do, and you get me, which
Yeah.
is such a welcome feeling. And that's
Yeah.
why the pivotal spiritual message in this book is God is bigger.
Much greater,
Bigger.
much bigger than
Bigger
anything
than we can ever
imagine.
define, bigger than we will ever know, and we don't need to know.
Exactly.
Just stay in the mystery.
Yeah.
Because the magic is in the mystery.
Yeah, it really
And
is.
if you spend all this time trying to learn it out and
figure
figure it
it out.
out,
First of all, you drive yourself crazy.
drive yourself crazy,
Yesterday when I
right?
was crazy before you began to understand.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And then it takes so
yeah.
much effort that you're drained and you don't have the availability within yourself to receive and honor the grace when it comes. And then that leads me to the whole idea of stillness. You know, I call myself a stillness guru. And in training,
I need you to teach me that.
Yes.
I do in the mornings. I'm very, very good at it because I'm very still.
Yes.
And that's when I do my meditation, my prayer. I am very still, but I sense that I can be better like in the middle of a day when things are very hectic.
yes.
It's hard for me to find that space. How do you do that?
My anchor is breath work.
Okay.
I'm a
Breathing,
conscious
okay,
breather.
okay.
Breath is the answer. breath is the answer to so many things. We could do a show just on that.
Wow.
Okay. So, and I learned progressive relaxation breathing with a psychometrist who was trying to help me to alleviate the panic attacks.
Okay.
And so he taught me this breathing procedure. It took me forever to learn it because my lungs were so tight and my breathing apparatus was so out of order and out of balance. So I spent 3 months with this psychometrist. And I had to do this breathing exercise twice a day. And what I learned from that after the fact was that the breathing alleviated the pain, it alleviated the stress, it reduced the panic attacks.
So do a quick demo for those who are watching of a simple breathing exercise.
The primary relaxation breath is in through the nose and out through the mouth. And when you're exhaling, you want to have a full exhalation. So there's some who say you start with the exhalation, that you go. And then you get the natural in-breath that follows a deep exhalation breath.
That felt more natural.
Yeah, the exhalation first.
First,
Yeah, because here's what happens with breathing, and it is something that you have to work with, okay? Because we unlearn how to breathe. Babies breathe naturally the right way. And then we unlearn how to breathe at about age 4, is what current literature now says. So we spend the rest of our life breathing backwards, okay?
Wow.
If you notice, most people's shoulders go when they breathe.
Yeah.
That's a sign right there, because you can breathe through here into your lungs.
This is your diaphragm. So the shoulders.
It's all in the diaphragm and the belly.
Okay.
Right, the shoulders remain still
Okay.
and gently still, not taut,
Okay.
but gently still. And you can do 3 breaths in succession, and that will give you an initial feeling of relaxation. The optimum is to work up to a 20-minute conscious breathing session, which will change your whole countenance and put you into a deeper relaxation state.
Okay.
So that's sort of the magic number. I think once you do that, though, sometimes you can do it in 10 minutes. Some people can do it in 15. You know, it's still a variability depending on the person's history, you know. But it is the power.
Wow.
And the other thing about the breath of air is that the breath of life comes in through the crown chakra on the breath of air.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
So if you want to have more prana, you want to have more chi, all these words you hear in Chinese medicine and Hindi and all that, then you want to breathe a lot consciously, because then you're bringing more healing energy, you're bringing more life force into your body as well. So it is one of the most powerful things you can do that relaxes you. And if you do it long enough and under the right conditions, it can take you into deep states of stillness, which are the healing places.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing
and
stuff.
That's something that I want to learn more about, because I know with my type A personality, I am always on, and I know that there is something good about being able to just immediately stop yourself and be still.
It is my resting place.
Yeah, I need to learn how to do that.
stillness.
And you know what? We're running out of time, and I thought what we might do is not to take anything away from your beautiful daughter, but maybe we're going to take a break, have her join us.
Oh, yeah,
the conversation
sure.
will be with her.
Okay.
But I think there might be some nice exchange questions, and it's always interesting to know what our children see and how this is impacted, because you guys are in business together.
Yes, and this book is dedicated to Silva.
Okay.
Without her, this journey would have been impossible.
Wow.
So she's very relevant to this book called Yesterday When I Was Crazy. She was also a major encourager and a major inspiration.
Wow. Our children do that to
Yes,
us, or for us. Wow, we've gone through 1 hour already, and we're going to come up with the second half of this interview next week, same time, same place. And I hope you've gotten as much out of this as I have, and I cannot wait to talk to her daughter next week. So if you would please take in what you've learned this week, and make sure you come back in and visit with us, same time, same place, and we're going to see you on the flip side next week. Bye-bye.